All right, we're going to keep going here. I wanted to mention, I just published this book in the last month. Finances, an excerpt from The Blessed Life, a study of Ephesians by Ken Petty. Like, I didn't write the book, but it was such a good teaching, I wanted to pass it along. And I think I mailed it out to a lot of you. I don't know if he's got a face like, did I mail you one? Andrew? Okay. He's looking at me like, what the heck is he doing? Where is he going with it? No, just kidding. But, and I have mailed some of you a copy, but if I didn't mail you one, there's some on the book table who asked me to make sure you get a copy of it. And I'll tell you kind of where it came from is you minister in Africa and they don't understand prosperity over there. They don't understand it much here either, but really worse over there. Because they think, and we've run into this, go making all these trips over there, well, if we need finances, if we need money, if we need provision, the white man will give it to us. That's the mindset. And if you guys have been online with people from other countries, they're constantly asking for money. I guess he knows. But in fact, but see, what we realized is we're praying to raise up 10 teachers. We did that for a long time. Now we've went past 10. They're going to go out and teach people about the gift of the Holy Spirit and its operation. And but now we're praying for 100. But if they don't have finances, they're not going to be going to teach anywhere. Because if you live in Kenya and you're going to go over to Uganda and teach, or somewhere, there's such a vast need to learn about the Holy Spirit, as we all know that. But if you don't have bus fare or plane fare, then you're not going to go anywhere. It takes money to do that stuff. It takes money to run a ministry. Even a little guy that's going to the next village to teach, he needs some money. Where's that money coming from? Well, it's not coming from me. My little Social Security check's not going to stretch that far. Now, see, I can pray to God, and God can send finances. I can give it to Him. Can't they just pray to God? Why do I need to be the middleman here? But they have so little vision for it. Maybe they've never seen it. It doesn't work that way. It's just a foreign concept to them. But so we decided we're going to be teaching about how to trust God for provision and prosperity. Because otherwise, there's no sense raising up teachers. They're not going to go anywhere to teach, So this was, I came across this little teaching about finances, and I thought that was a really good one. And I'm going to take a bunch of these books to Africa and give them away. In fact, one guy, there's a couple about my age. In fact, she's 2 blocks away. She owns a hairdressing shop. I think she's the owner of it. But anyway, but in other words, they're missionaries. He's with some international organization, Rod and Kimberly, and they've been to Rwanda a few times, and they go to different places like that and teach and preach, whatever. And with some international organization, I forget the name of it, but it's some organization. So here's what Rod told me. He said he was going over to Africa to teach or preach, and here's what the heads of his organization told him. This is the instructions he got. He says, I want you're supposed to go over there, teach the gospel, preach the gospel, but do not teach them about prosperity, because it would be cruel to teach them something they cannot experience. Yeah. I mean, no wonder they've got no faith believing for it, because that's what we've been taught by the church. So we're going up, we're fighting a upstream, but you know what I'm saying? There's a spiritual fight over there. Because God can send money to them as well as He can. I mean, our example, and Patty and I know Ken Petty, and I talked to Darlene recently about this book, and they really took a lot of inspiration from George Mueller. I mean, that guy, he never asked anybody for anything. He never asked people for help. He never painted a big, glorious picture of his vision. Do you want to sow into it? Which, all that stuff we see. And he never did any of that. And yet, God, I would assume if you do the conversion, I mean, God sent him millions of dollars. We would say millions of dollars. Probably millions back then, And he figured something out. And that's then, and in fact, Darlene was telling me that when she and I think she was kind of dating, getting to know Ken, and I think they're doing some marriage counseling, and Ken said, well, I would never ever consider not tithing, Ken was telling whoever the pastor was, the minister, whatever. And Darlene was sitting there and said, well, I'm not going to consider not tithing either. And so she said I think she said they were sitting on the bed, maybe, I don't know if they were married or going to get married, whatever, and they're talking about finances, and they'd read that book by George Mueller, Delighted in God, and they said, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could just trust God like George Mueller did and just live this way, and trust God for provision, Wouldn't that be wonderful, And they kind of decided in their heart that that's what they were going to do, and then, I don't know if it was 30, 40 years later, they looked at each other, we've done it. We've done it. I mean, if you know Ken, and you guys do, a lot of you, most of you, a lot of you, if you. But he had weekends like this, bigger weekends, never received an offering. How's it, I mean, in fact, Darlene said once, by the way, Ken, we're going to have some of these, meetings, whatever, advance weekend. Maybe we should put like a little box in the back of the room in case people want to give. That way, they'd be able to. And Ken said, no, that's too much like dropping a hint or something, He wouldn't do that. And we have a box. Maybe we ought to get rid of it, but don't pay no attention to the box.
You had a box.
Huh?
You had a box, but he never asked anybody.
Oh, okay.
He did have a box.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, it was.
But anyway, so he was quite an inspiring example, and in fact, honestly, that guy gave Patty and I thousands of dollars. You don't have a job. You know what I'm saying? He's like, I should be giving him, and we did. We contributed, like we all did, I think, or most all of us. But he just trusted God, and they just trusted God. And I was talking to Darlene, and it's kind of interesting because, I wrote this book. She was got kind of excited about it. It was Ken's teaching, and she asked me for some copies so she can give away to the people in Tucson. That's if you're from Tucson, that's probably why I didn't send you one, because Darlene's going to give you one. But so I gave her like 40 copies, but I don't know. She was just excited about it and said, I don't know where I was going with that, but it's a wonderful teaching, and we decided we're going to do the giver, the gift, the manifestation of the Spirit, and we're also going to teach about prosperity because they need it over there. And, I almost would like to hear more about what they've done in India, because I think in India they've taught prosperity and the people started to prosper. Prosperity looks different to different people too. So, and a person in India prospering might look different than you prospering, but still God can prosper people. He can supply. So, I don't know how I got off on that. But it's a good book, it's a great book, and so you're welcome. I don't really sell them. I didn't write the book, but you can have a copy, or if you want, you can have 10 or 15 if you want them. So let me know if you want more than one. I'll give you a bunch of them if you want them. So I got a big stack of them. If I don't give them to you, I'm going to take them to Africa, but I can always print more. So let's keep going about authority, power and authority. And now I really enjoy studying some of these old-timers. Like he already mentioned John G. Lake. He mentioned John Alexander Dowie. And my father-in-law, he studied all these people. He studied everybody. But now, are these people that we study, like Howard Carter? He was one of the forefathers, et cetera, 1919, 1920, 30, whatever. But Lester Sumrall, those people. But you can study their work or study what they did, or Smith Wigglesworth, and And like I'm sure you know, but it's like you use that principle, prove all things, hold fast that which is good. I mean, they don't teach everything perfectly. They don't. But I'm telling you, you can learn a lot of good stuff from them, for sure. In fact, I would like to stand up here and announce today that I teach everything perfectly. So, but I'm trying. But you can say, "Oh, he missed it on that one." Well, you know what I mean. You do the best you can. You just learn from people. And like another one was Norval Hayes. He was a teacher, kind of amazing guy too. But you can learn from all these guys. And a lot of it's astonishing thing in these days. You can punch up their sermons on YouTube and listen to them yourself. Kind of incredible. I don't think there's ever been a time in history like that before. You can hear Oral Roberts teach for 30 hours if you wanted to. Whatever. So, but like Norval Hayes said, we've got to be like the old cow. The old cow has sense enough to chew the hay and spit out the sticks. Chew the hay, spit out the sticks. Pick out the good stuff. And like somebody said too, John G. Lake and these other men of God, their floor, their ceiling should be our floor, and we can build on that. Not that we're disrespectful or from our forefathers, but we can take it a little bit further maybe. So let's do that. Let's do that. Let's keep going up. And but I'm going to read this one about a little testimony or a little sheet about John G. Lake, and you might have heard this before. I think Ken Petty read this once in a meeting. You'll see it here in a second. But let me say John G. Lake. I think most of you know about him, but if you don't, a couple of you don't. He was a minister around the 1920, 30, 40, long in there. And really adamantly, vigorously went after the healing ministry. And with a passion. And he saw amazing, astonishing things. In fact, one of the stories I like about him is, I don't know where he was at the time. In fact, I saw the ad on once. I finally Googled it and finally saw it. But he put an ad in the paper that said, "We're going to have a healing service." This is like 1923 or something, We're going to have a healing service. Bring the sick. We're going to pray for the sick, heal the sick. And if you bring the sick and they don't get healed, I'll pay you $100. 800? Yes. 800. I thought it was 100, but that's okay. That takes some guts. Yeah. I haven't put that on the billboard at the theater downtown, And I thought it was 100, but if it was 800, but still, if you do the math, that's like thousands of dollars today, Because you could buy a new car for like $400 or $500 or something back then. So we could probably learn something from that guy. He knew something about authority. He wasn't having it, and he would go after that stuff. He'd get rid of it, he'd kick it out, whatever the disease was or whatever. And was he perfect? No. Did he teach the word perfectly? No, but I don't know. He did some stuff I haven't done yet. So, sometimes I like to read those things and pick out the good stuff. I do it frequently, And I know Darlene was passionate about that kind of thing. Like, she would read these books and this was back in the 70s, she'd read these books and kind of hide them so nobody would know what she's reading, And in fact, she told me once, God told her there's so-and-so book is at this secondhand store. So she went down the secondhand store. I don't see it. Well, it's under that one. God didn't tell her where it was, And but I guess the reason I brought up Darlene was I was thinking we had this book. I was going to send the book out to 50, 100 people, which I did probably 50, 60, whatever. She was going to teach, like John was out of town, and so his fellowship. She's associated with John's fellowship in Tucson there. So they were having different people teach, like from the different people in their different houses. Well, Darlene was going to teach one day, which is rare. She never teach. she never teach. You never hear her teach. But because she was, Ken Petty was a master teacher, and she felt like, how could she teach when he's in the room, that kind of thing. I mean, she just felt a little overshadowed, overpowered. But so I thought, okay, I'm going to print up these books, print up 50 of them. And Warren Seams was gracious enough. He sent me this little 4 pages on how to log into the teaching. I'll send out these books. I'll send out these little things, and we'll get a huge, then I'll get a bunch of people that are interested to listen to Darlene teach. And so in fact, I print up the stack of 200 pages, or however many it was, 100 pages, and well, maybe I should ask Darlene. I don't want to overstep or anything. So, hey, Darlene, I know you're going to be teaching on such a day, and I'm going to send out some of these books. Can I send out a little notice that you're going to be teaching, and so people can log on to the teaching if you want to? I texted her, and she said, I'd rather you didn't. I was like, darn, this is a golden opportunity here. Because from what I got from her conversation, she was going to share on finances and provision, which Ken didn't do that often. He did a little bit, but he didn't really, I don't know, he didn't do a lot of teaching on that subject. But I figured, okay, and she's got all these testimonies. She lived through it and everything else. And so he said, I'd rather you didn't. And I texted her, well, I don't like that answer. I think people need to hear what you need to say, and something like that. And kind of was a little, darn it, I'm going to fight for this, And so she said, she texted, okay, let me pray about it. So meantime, I got that stack, I got the books printed, and should I ship, with or without that little note? And so about a week later, I said, what did you think? Did you pray about it? She says, yeah, I'd rather you didn't, She said, but you know how shy I am. People. Well, you know what I'm saying. I'm not pointing fingers at her, but you know what I mean? God can use shy people too. I don't know. I just feel like she has so much to contribute. So many things to contribute. And so does Patty. In fact, Patty has encouraged her to write a book. I mean, she needs to do something because she's got insight that I need to hear. I want to hear it. So she said, no, I don't think so. And then she said, but you and Patty can listen. And then a day later, Joe can listen too. That's about as far as her, vision. I don't know. I'm kind of teasing her, joking a little bit, but. So anyway, the book's here, and it's a great book, and I did send out a bunch. I didn't say, besides she ended up being ill that day. She didn't teach anyway, so whatever. So, but I was excited about it, and I would like to get her to teach, especially on finance, because I remember Ken sharing a few testimonies here and there, like when they bought their house. Seemed like they wrote a check for $15,000. They didn't have the money in the bank, and God had told them, well, just write the check. It'll be there when the check goes through. And sure enough, it was. So things like that.